Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sharon Plant, and I thank you for joining in our third of our series of quick tips and tools related to various topics for using educational technology. Today, we'll be kind of talking through a variety of tips and tricks for note taking, which is kind of a hard area to address with technology because there's so many different components. But I hope to just share with you some of the tools that are out there that you may want to explore further. And again, if you have participated before, you know there's that YouTube resource channel. If you're new, I will give you the link at the end where it'll give you some opportunity to explore some of these tools a little bit further. So you can use the URL at the bottom to access these slides. And again, we will always share out the link later where you can refer to the information on them shared as well as this video. If you haven't joined in before, again, welcome. If you are back from one of the other two webinars, welcome back. Again, I am Sharon Plant. I am Chief Technology Integrator here at the Southport School in Southport, Connecticut. We are a school for students with language-based learning disabilities. So dyslexia, ADHD, executive function are kind of the large areas we focus on. And I'm presenting to you on behalf of our Southport CoLab, which is our training branch of our school. You can always reach out to me afterwards at my email. I'm also pretty active on Twitter, so if you are there, I'd love to connect, so please feel free to reach out. You can always find out more information about our school and further program offerings for our summer collab. We have a summer series, so if you're somewhat in the area that we're putting together, that will be here at the school, but we hope to offer many of those things also out via Zoom or Google Hangouts. So keep an eye on that website for those further offerings. So I'm going to get right off the bat into some tools. I will say it's some of the area for a lot of the tools end up being on tablets. I think that is because of the nature of note taking related to the development of these tablets for handwriting. We are mainly an iPad based school, so that's been an area of really kind of looking at as how does that work note taking, because we know that handwriting is a very key component to helping students remember things. However, it's challenging when you're working with students with learning disabilities that we know that whether they're dysgraphic or again, they have trouble with dyslexia, so the spelling is really an issue. How can we balance everything we know about what makes good note taking and supporting these students? Notability is a tool that's been actually around for quite a while. It's been a favorite of mine personally for a bit because it was one of the first ones that came out and really had some very multi-sensory components to their app. They have a Mac-based app as well. It's a little harder, of course, to do the drawing on there, but it is possible. Really, they shine on their iOS app, but it's one of the tools that's out there. And again, there are actually a few others that are growing like this, so it's not the only fish in the sea on this. But if you're looking at a tool like this, really the things to think about are, can students handwrite? Is that possible? Do they have the ability to type? Because that we know can be very key. And that also allows, you can use word prediction and some other tools if they were on an iOS device using something like the read and write keyboard for checking spelling, or Grammarly, a third-party keyboard to check spelling. So there's some other tools that can help with that writing component. Is the ability to record also built into the tool? For Notability, it has a recording feature. It doesn't necessarily sync up as some other devices might do to where the text is, but it might be a student maybe records a whole lecture, writing down some notes as they go, and then can kind of go back and listen later and hopefully maybe either update them or refreshes their memory. And what's the organization system? For any of these tools, I'm going to address the organization system. One of the things I like about Notability is it's pretty simple, easy organization system, which is key because we work with middle school and elementary school students. For some high school or college students, this may be too simplified, but it's a basic by subject area and then divides by notes. So it's pretty easy to use. It has a variety of papers in there. There can be lines, there can be dots, there's graph paper. It's pretty easy to share out to other resources. That's really evolved as the iOS has evolved. So there's a whole variety. You can put PDFs in there. They are not accessible PDFs, so it can't be read. to the student within this tool, but they can put something in and then maybe they're annotating or they're highlighting. I had a student once just take a worksheet, took a picture of it, put it in here so that they could actually do the highlighting and some of the annotating with the worksheet right within here. So there's some great options within this kind of tool. Another one that's big out in the iOS field is GoodNotes 5. There's been a lot of discussion about which people like better. There's a great resource actually for if you're really looking at iOS apps. I'm going to pull out here for a minute. And I know this is in my resources, but there's a whole, you can go onto YouTube and search paperless note taking, and you will find a whole lot of great in-depth reviews on different note taking tools that are out there. There's some really amazing people out there. There's one in particular, this young woman that I follow that called Paperless X, that she really gets into a lot of great things on being paperless if you're really going that route. So GoodNotes, again, is a really great tool. They also have the ability to add some recordings. The drawings very similar to Notability. There's some little tweaks in pros and cons onto them, but it's another great tool that I think is out there for if they were looking for an iOS using maybe an Apple Pencil, but you could use any really kind of stylus out there you take notes. And their organization system also I think is a pretty much simplified tool. It's just I've been using Notability for so long, but having used GoodNotes and really the GoodNotes 5, which is their current version, has come a long way. If I didn't have everything in Notability already, I might jump ship. So then there's the biggie that's come out onto the field, OneNote from Microsoft. OneNote is quite remarkable. The idea of what Microsoft has done for accessibility is just huge. If you see some down in the bottom left, some of the ability that you have within OneNote really across the Microsoft set of tools. But there is great dictation in here. They have the line focus tools to improve attention. Their immersive reader, which is really what is a big, robust part of accessibility. Students can bring in documents. They can become accessible so they can listen to them while they're taking notes. It's really an amazing thing that they keep improving it over and over again. Identifying parts of speech. It will do some syllabication. So if students really are working with something more complex and need it syllabicated as they're taking their notes or checking things, it's just remarkable. I can't even go into everything that my OneNote does. I definitely encourage you, if you are a Microsoft 365 school, hopefully you're already using it. If you're not, OneNote is free and it is web-based. There is an app. It's device agnostic, which is also one of the wonderful things about it. There can be handwriting. There is ability to just record your own information and play it back bit by bit. So a nice pause feature. You can put in audio recordings throughout, so they do put themselves into a file. So maybe you're recording at one point and then can have a separate audio recording within it. Its organization system is definitely something that I think takes a little bit more getting used to. It's quite remarkable. As you can see in this image, it starts with notebooks on the left, and then it really goes into kind of a 3 to 4 layer organization system. This, I think, is something that is really stronger for maybe upper middle school, possibly, but high school and college students definitely could handle this. I would just find younger students might find it a little bit more overwhelming, especially if someone has executive dysfunction. Things could, I see, get lost in here a little bit more frequently than in some other areas. I do use OneNote for a lot of my other personal things. I was a really big Evernote user for taking articles, recipes. I'm a big recipe collector from online. And so I find, for me, that's where I've been using it personally because I have things in other places already. But it is a tool that I'm starting to gravitate to more and more, particularly because they are building in so many of these supports that I really think it's an amazing tool for students to really take and use long term. Microsoft is great about giving supports. So if something you want to look into, I can either put you in, if you reach out to me, put you direct in contact with one of the people on the OneNote team. They're very active on Twitter as well, sharing their research, sharing videos, sharing the things that they're working together with so many other companies. So it's really a robust tool to build in various note-taking. If you're a Google user, Google Keep is kind of this little secret nugget of wonderfulness from Google that is, you can do so many things with, but you kind of have to take a step back and think about it. I attended a great session with somebody talking how to use Google Keep for the writing process, because you can organize the notes and export it to a Google Doc. But really, also for note taking, it is a really neat little gem. It's really like little Post-it notes, but you can color code them. You can organize these by topic. What is also really neat about Google Keep is you can put in text and you can put in audio, and the audio will automatically transcribe. So you will have the transcription as well as still the audio file. So if you're just a Google user and you haven't tried Google Keep, it's definitely a must try. There's so much little things that you can do with it. Again, organization for personal use, but for writing process and or just for note taking. And again, for note taking, if maybe a student was doing a project, they organized their notes and then they needed to write some sort of paper about it or an essay, notes can be organized and exported into a Google Doc for easy writing. If they're using it on within the Chrome browser, there's even a more simplified way to do that. So some students are already using Snap and Read. Snap and Read is a wonderful tool from Don Johnston. It has many features in it, and I think a lesser known one is their note-taking tool. So Snap and Read is an extension that can be done with Google that can level text, can simplify text, but they also have built into this that if a student were on a website where they were having to do the reading and it was simplified, so really great at their level, and you wanted them to take notes on it, they have a built-in note-taking feature. As you can see, it's side by side. So the student doesn't need to open up any other window. They don't need to go anywhere else. It's all right there for them to create the outline and then can be exported out for further usage. Another tool, I'm always looking for something that, again, can take audio and do something with it. I think many people, I probably didn't include it in here because I'm not a huge fan. The Live Scribe pen was one of the tools that was out there that could record audio while a student was taking notes, and it lined up perfectly. But you needed special notebooks. The transcription isn't always great. Audio Note Taker is a tool. It's a Mac desktop tool. But as you can see, and when you get the link to the slides or go to it, this is a video I'm not going to play for now due to timing, but you can see that the audio lines up right where the student was typing the text. So how convenient would that be for a student that they know right when I go to where I wrote academic vocabulary, the teacher was talking about what I needed to know at that time. So I wish more tools would do this and figure this out, how to do this really well, where what is being said is lined up right with the text. But this is one that does exist, again, for Mac desktops or laptops that can do that. Kind of on the random idea of things, but I always love thinking how people explore things. This is an app that I just pressed record. It's a free download on an iOS device, but it's one that, again, I'm thinking about maybe a student was doing some sort of project note taking on their own, maybe reading in a textbook or other resource for note taking and didn't want to like read and write and that back and forth, which can be challenging. This is one that they could be speaking into it. And again, you can see it automatically transcribes what they're being said. So maybe they're looking at something and then they can record what they're thinking that they want to take the note on, and then it provides the text. And again, the text and audio can be shared out together or separately. So kind of just a little simple way for students to maybe do independent note taking from a resource on their own and then have it in a visual format to use in whatever product needs to come out. So another thing that I actually have been playing with for a little while is how to use things like PowerPoint, slides, Keynote for note taking. These are very basic everyday tools that many of our students think about, well, that's just for me to create a presentation and share out and then I'm done. But they actually are a tool that can be used in other ways, particularly as more and more features come in. I had a class of science last year where I had a student who really couldn't handle regular note taking in a 2-column note style that we were fashioned with doing because it was too much information. It wasn't accessible to her. She looked at that document of 2-column notes and was very overwhelmed. By putting notes onto a slide, it limited the amount of information studied at one time, limited the amount of words. We were able to add visuals. They could add in drawings, and there can also be an audio recording. So the student could take it home, and since maybe the words, instead of using the text to speech to listen to the text that was on there. There could be just an audio recording of that student, or it was myself recording what was said, and could listen to the information right on that slide. And again, it was a smaller focus. You can now record audio in Google Slides as well, doing the same sort of purpose. And again, adding this ability to draw, which I'm going to address a little bit more in a few minutes, how that's become a great component for note taking. But it was really that simplified way to study. I think of it as like old-fashioned flashcards where you may have added your drawing and your information, but this is put simply into a slide deck where the student had it in one place, they can't lose them, and had a little bit more interactive ability and simpler way to share the information. And they had a lot of fun creating the different things on there. For students who need a bit more, the SonoSend is a really amazing tool. I can't even go into all that it can do. But again, it's another one of those ones that does add in the recording. You can bring in slides to it. You can, then the audio recording can line up with the slides that are being presented. You can be taking notes as well at the same time. It can be color coded. There is a cost to it, so it's kind of one of those ones that if you're going to really want to look at it and decide if those really stronger level supports for note taking are needed, definitely you could reach out to them for a free trial. Check out their video for really learning much more about it. But for a student who really needs a bit more accessibility, structure, audio, color coding, SonoSend is one that would be worth exploring. Trying to get through because we got a couple minutes left. Read and Write is a tool for so many purposes. If you've been in the other webinars, Read and Write for Chrome has so much robustness in it, from the text-to-speech, speech to text, the word prediction, but they have this great tool kind of related to note-taking. They have this highlighting where a student can extract highlights out of an online resource, a website, anything like that, color code them with the 4-color highlights, and export those out to a Google Doc for note-taking purposes, writing a paper, whatever it may be, doing a homework assignment. And so and it also, if they were doing a paper, it pulls the resource, the citation with them so they can go back to the website later pretty easily. But there's also these ability kind of that people kind of forget, you can use voice notes with Read and Write to add that into a Google Doc. And there is an ability to OCR certain things on the screen, so that allows that accessible text to be listened to. So a tool that you might use for many things could be built into a thinking about note-taking or pulling notes in from other information. But again, adding that audio file onto maybe some typed notes might be helpful in a Google Doc. Simple Note, this is a new one that has come on the market. Again, is really clean, neat. Again, it's device agnostic and free. Free is always good. So it's just another different tool that's come out there. There's not a lot to it. So maybe if it's somebody who needs something simpler, doesn't need all the bells and whistles, just needs an easy way to organize notes in a nice, clean format, kind of, I think a lot of those students with executive dysfunction might need something just a little simpler. And again, because this is cross-platform, it's one of the things that I really like about it for multi-device areas. And again, these I'm going through quick through, but hopefully you will go look at some of them that have catch your eye to do. Don't forget there are those mind maps out there that can be used for also organizing information. If you were in the writing webinar, we talked about them there, but all these tools are out there. Inspiration Maps, I really recommend it for iOS. MindNote, another one. But these are all different websites and apps that can help students just organize information maybe in a web format that is better to suit them. All of them have great resources to look at for teachers if you're looking for further examples on how to use them. Kind of thinking back to paper, a little short for a short bit, Rocketbook is kind of a really amazing invention. If you're not familiar with it, they actually started off a Kickstarter a while ago. But the idea of the Rocketbook is you use these friction pens. They're from Pilot. You have to use these pens with their notebooks. The students would be a student who could handle handwriting their notes, or maybe really needed to handwrite their notes. And then there is a coding system at the bottom that the student would mark in, and that is coded to, when scanned with Rocketbook's app, will send the notes automatically to wherever they are. So I can color code it to go, say, I send it to my Google Drive, to my science folder, send this one to my social studies folder. And yes, I've had people, why can't I just take a picture of the notes and put it anywhere myself? Well, as I say, how many times do you take a picture, say you're gonna move it somewhere, and then you don't? This takes it very simplified. It takes the scan for you, makes it also a searchable text, and then automatically files the system for you. Also, the genius is with a simple microfiber cloth and water, you can wipe the page clean and have a fresh new page, but the notes are already somewhere else. So you don't need tons of notebooks. You can carry around one notebook for the day, take all your notes, mark them to where you want them to go. At the end of the day, scan them. They will go to wherever you need them to go. And then you could start fresh with a brand new notebook. Very kind of cool concept. They also came out, as I think for teachers with note taking, some people don't have smart boards. They came out with these beacons recently that you can put at the corner of a page, corner of a whiteboard, using the same app. The board or paper could be scanned, the notes captured, and again sent. So maybe if you still have a whiteboard, we still have some teachers who do, they could write the notes, take a picture, when they have them, save them to their Google Drive, share them to students. That absent student would be a great way to use either the Rocket Notebook or the beacons. A new thing on the market is this Remarkable tablet. It looks like a note-taking tool met a Kindle. My headmaster is in love with this tool. It's a little pricey, so I would think adults or high school or college students might be on the market for it. But the whole essence was some people hate writing on a tablet, iPad because of the glass. They don't like that feedback. And this is meant to kind of give more of a paper feel. My headmaster is in love with this, and it also uses e-ink, so it's a little lighter on the eyes. It's really just hit the market in the last several months, but is really going to be interesting to see where this kind of goes, and it will sync up with other devices to save the notes. I'm going to kind of quickly go through these resources. These are just some variety of tools of different ways to do journals and note-taking that I have found along the way. There are links within these slides for you to access them. One quick thing as I think about note-taking, if you're requiring students to note-take off a website and they happen to be on an iOS or a Mac device, Google keeps working on this. I know there's third-party apps that will do extensions that will do that, but is this reader mode, which takes away all the busyness on the screen. So we have students who, they get to an article, then there are those ads that are distracting and the different images. This reader mode, when available, will just simplify it down to just the text. Again, I know there's third-party extensions for it. Google is working to make it innately in their device. They're just not there yet. And lastly, this idea of sketchnoting. This has been huge in the last couple of years. We're realizing that some students who draw their notes helps it remember them remember it better. They are creating visual representations that is a whole lot easier for them to handle. So this is a great resource. There's many others come out there now, but this woman, Sylvia Duckworth, has an amazing website with some great resources to kind of get started for yourself or for students. And it's, having tried it myself, I'm really amazed at how using this with some of my students has helped them. And I will tell you, I am not artistic, but I have tried this and I found it pretty engaging to do, because you don't need to create crazy drawings, but it's sometimes just how you write the word, where you put the drawing is really kind of how it enables the memory to work better. So as I said, I would share a spot if you have seen this before. This tiny URL is a link to a YouTube channel where I have curated resources about these and other tools over the time so you can take a look. As I said, any of these companies that have these tools, I encourage you to reach out to them for more information and demos. Many of them are more than happy to set up some time to talk with you more specifically. If you have some in particular also, I'm happy to put you in contact with anyone I know from these companies. Look on Facebook and Twitter. They are often, many of them, sharing resources there. And there are conversations that happen on Twitter about these tools from time to time. AT Chat, which happens to be on Wednesday nights at 8, so 8 o'clock tonight Eastern time, but you can always look later. The chat gets put in a wakelet that you can follow what the conversation was later. EdTech Chat, which happens Monday at 8 o'clock Eastern time, and also just follow the hashtag dyslexia. So it's a lot of information in a short time, but these are meant to be quick tips, and hopefully we will have some longer sessions you can sign up for in the future. And I will bring up, see quick, any conversations, questions that people had, if I can address quickly. And I know that's a lot to throw at you. So if anyone has a question, you can put it in the group chat. If not, we are kind of up with a few minutes extra. So I hope you gained something from today. Please take the time to fill out the feedback. I'd love to hear and appreciate you taking the time to join in. And hopefully you've learned a little bit more what the options out there for note taking. If we don't seem to be getting any questions, again, thank you everyone for joining in, and look forward to sharing with you in the future. Oh, hold on, one looks like a question popped up. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. And again, everyone have a great rest of your day wherever you are today.